But in this world, in this social media gaming world, there's freedom. They can go anywhere that they want to go. Dopamine dependency is absolutely huge. The frontal lobe is not developing properly. Even though they're just thinking it, the root is there in their head. The thinking process is thinking is physical action. So that is a sin if you really get down to it. Hello everyone. So today I just wanted to take some time to share with you. A lot of you guys are asking questions about why we decided to go on a social media /screen /computer /gaming /electronics /phone fast. I'm not doing it. My husband's not doing it. It's for our kids. And I'm not going to go into too much details, but you know how like when something happens and then as a parent, it like clicks. You're like, oh, you know, we should really like not be on the phones so much, like my kids, or social media or Discord or those kind of things. You know, there's a place for it, but you know what? We need a semi-permanent break from this. And it was kind of like a little click in our lives where we just decided it's time. We need to do it, and we need to do it for quite some time. A lot of you guys are asking me how long we're going to do it for, and my answer is until all of my kids have peace about not having any kind of electrical device, aka computers, phones, that kind of stuff. So first of all, my kids don't have social media. I think unless you count Discord as social media, and that's been something that we've had a lot of control over in general, and they talk to only the friends that they know. However, I've got concerns about Discord. I'm not going to get into Discord specifically in this video because it definitely can be used for things that are good and definitely can be used for things that are not so good. So, but I'm not going to get into that. But what I am going to talk about in general is this idea of social media and gaming and phones and you know, right now, just take a second here and, you know, you clicked on this video because now you're curious, but I'm going to ask you before you go any further, why do you think these things, these devices and social media and all the things is not good for a child, not good for a middle schooler or a preteen, and also not good for a teenager? I mean, you can even put adults down too if you want to, because you know, there's always that. And as you're doing this, I kind of want to share with you some things that have been kind of coming up. Just some learning. I feel like in general, like society is now learning that this is a problem that we are seeing, that people are desensitized to so many things. They're going numb. They are addicted to these dopamine fixes that we get from all of this. So I'm just going to kind of walk you down some things, some red flags that kind of jumped out at me about these devices. And, you know, you can make your own decision on whether or not you want to do a screen fast if you're inspired. We've had controls and we've had checkups and we've had software to moderate all of it, but you know, the middle school brain, there are impulse controls and there's a lack of self-control in certain areas. So this is just a really good time for the parent to just go, nope. So the first thing that I feel like this is one that just and I'm not even going to say the word because, you know, algorithms, but you'll understand what I'm trying to say. When it comes to computer, a lot of people run to the most extreme situation when it comes to ad pop-ups, when it comes to algorithms, when it comes to people trying to sell you things or buy things, and teenage boys and middle school boys sharing things with each other. And there is an extreme, you know, hiding things on the computer, watching things that you shouldn't be watching. There is an extreme that we tend to go towards. And yes, that is definitely, we do not want our kids getting involved with that. But it happens here and there. There's little nuggets here and there through advertising. It's there. But that's not always worst case scenario. Sometimes it's just as simple as they're addicted to gaming, or they're addicted to feeling good about themselves because, you know, you do something and you get likes. I mean, that's huge. But I do want to talk a little bit about this algorithm thing that's happening, because a lot of people don't know. It goes really deep. The marketers, they are using the algorithm to help sell their product, and they pay money to have their product pushed out with certain buzzwords. And we all know those situations where you're having a conversation with your friend, your phone's nearby, and you're talking about some kind of product and you're sharing it, and next thing you know, like, the product pops up on your Facebook feed. And that's because, yes, your phones are listening to you. They are listening to what you're talking about, blah blah blah, and they're going to try to find things to throw in to help those advertisers get their ads out in front of you, marketers, right, in front of your face. They're doing that because they're getting paid to do that. And it is what it is. It's just a part of our life. It's all about money, okay, and all about getting business. And I get it. And coming from someone who has done ad campaigns, I get it. There's buzzwords, all right? There's keywords that we're looking for. I will say certain social media sites have stronger algorithms. I'll be completely frank, like, if you guys don't know, you probably do know, TikTok is one of the strongest algorithms I have ever seen and experienced. I just thought I'd throw that out there. But a lot of parents are also allowing their kids to do some of these social media sites just because it's like, hey, you know, let's do it. I'll moderate it. A lot of that stuff. And of course, here's our brains going to a worst case scenario, and we're looking out for that. But there are some minor things that are going on. So the other thing that we don't realize as parents, because we didn't experience this when we were kids, a lot of us didn't. When we get onto any kind of gaming platform or just any kind of social media platform or any kind of platform, whatever it is, it's like we're stepping into a whole new world. A world that we can create a persona of who we are and be on our best behavior or have certain characteristics. People don't even have to see your face. It's a persona that you make up. You could be the best person, like best of best, you know, people aren't responding to you in the real world. They're responding to you in a virtual setting where you have a chance to text something but then like delete it before you send it because it just doesn't sound right, or you reread it, or you can, you know, send a voice message and then delete it because you didn't like the way it sounds, and you can always backtrack, and you get the point. It's like you're putting on a show, right? And you're in your own little world that you have created. Okay, this is what's happening to these children. Is life is hard and they're dealing with a lot of stressors just in general with the way our society is moving. In fact, there's been studies that are saying that this group of kids right now that are middle schoolers and teenagers are dealing with more stress than any teenager in middle school has ever dealt with. And it's equivalent to what adults are going through right now. It is huge. It's a huge, they're stressed out, okay guys? And they're withdrawing into these imaginary words and this persona that they themselves has now created. But in this world, in this social media, gaming, Discord, all the things type world, there's freedom. They can go anywhere that they want to go. So here they are, they look like they're safe, but they're behind a computer screen with their headphones on, and they're free to do whatever they want to. Okay, I know it's not like running to the back of the school building to like, you know, get in trouble because that was a thing when I was a kid, you know, all the bad kids congregated behind the school building to smoke cigarettes and other things. And, you know, but our kids are doing things in their heads, and they're thinking things in their heads, and they're clicking buttons on their keyboard that are just as sinful as doing it that way too. In your household, behind the screen. The root is still there. The sin, the problem, the root is still there. And it is a problem. It's a way to withdraw. It's a way to rebel. And in that world, they are completely free to do whatever they want, say whatever they want. And sometimes there's no consequences. Sometimes they can do a video chat where it's a he said, she said thing, and there's no video recording taking place. There are definitely some social media and media apps where they can hide a lot of that stuff going on, okay? No matter what filters, no matter what software they have, if you know that they have those certain apps, they can get whatever they want. And you also know in social media / gaming, all that world, it's so much easier to get away with stuff, but it's so much easier to respond poorly to things because you're not in front of the person. I mean, we all know it, right? You get on Facebook and something upsets you. It's easier to type something in that's really nasty in the moment, impulsively, right? Than if that person was standing right in front of you. You say things to your friends that you would never say to their face on social media. You hear that all the time. Bullying, this is where cyberbullying becomes a problem. People talk about you hear about cyberbullying all the time. But it's like a real thing. And it's also really easy to do because that person's not right in front of you. But it's literally right there. And here's the crazy thing with cyberbullying is that a text message can always be read wrong. Not just text message, but any kind of message can always be read wrong from the other person. So, yeah, that's like a big problem. Another thing that does occur with these devices and all the things, YouTube, shorts, all these things, right, is you will notice sometimes that your kids, their language, the way they treat people, the way they talk to people, there's this lack of respect. There's also the language changes. You'll hear them start to say things that you would never admit, especially homeschool. Now, see, this gets even crazier because, some of the people homeschool is because we're trying to get away from the public school setting and the world and the way that the world teaches them. However, they may be away from the schoolyard, but they're sitting behind their computer, which has become pretty much, it's not identical, but it functions very similar if you really think about it, because they're listening to things that are inappropriate and they're repeating it. It's in their mind. Even though they're just thinking it, the root is there in their head, and it doesn't mean, maybe they don't physically sin, but the thinking process is thinking is physical action. So that is a sin. If you really get down to it, the process of thinking is a physical action, and if it's wrong, it's a sin. Yeah. Just think about that for a second, okay? But you will notice that some of their language and their speech and the way that they talk to people is it's going to be different when they're online and doing online things more often. Another thing, now we're going to get into some of the heavy stuff. And this has to do with dependency at a young age to sitting in front of the computer or the phone, all right? It teaches them a lot of things, and it can damage them both physically and mentally. Okay, let me touch on the physical stuff, right? We all get it. They're gonna, posture is really bad. I've seen the gaming headphones. I've even seen situations where there has been a dent in a teenager's head right here because the headphones on their head has left a dent and it's, moved around some stuff in their skull. There is a lack of sleep. They are struggling to get the adequate amount of sleep that they need in order to function the next day. Dopamine dependency is absolutely huge, and this kind of plays into the mental thing. So, dopamine is a chemical drug that is released when we get quick rewards, and it becomes like it's a drug, okay? And we can become addicted to it. And so the more dopamine that's released in our bodies, the more we want it. But also at the same time, the more we're like numb to it as well. So it's almost like any kind of drug, like you take the drug once, you have this huge effect, or caffeine, right? That one's really easy to understand. People who don't drink caffeine all the time take a dose of caffeine and they're wiring and shaking. But if it's someone who drinks like 2 cups of coffee every single day, they need like 3 cups to kind of stay awake and get through the day. It's the same kind of thing with dopamine. You sit here and you look at these devices and you say, well, I'm not putting it into my body. What you are is it's on the outside of your body, but you are feeding it in and your body's responding with that chemical reaction. So it is the same thing, but it's this natural reaction to what's being set in front of your face. Cognitive thinking. All right, that is, and I try to tell my son this all the time. He doesn't understand. I don't know. I'm thinking a middle schooler can actually understand when I talk to them about cognitive development, because at this stage, they both think that they know more than me. And I don't understand. But they understand. I don't understand. Okay, I get that. But cognitive development, right, is your frontal lobe. And for the middle schooler and the teenage boy, teenage girl too as well, and boy in their early 20s, this area is trying to develop. And if you are adding these gaming, these things that are very heavy in dopamine, these quick, hits, I'm gonna call it that, okay? Their cognitive here is not, their frontal lobe is not developing properly. It's going to hinder it. And the same thing is true as in an adult. If they're in front of their phones all the time and they're getting those dopamine hits, it's going to mess with your frontal lobe as well. Now, there is brain remapping, and that is truly a thing. And you know, you look into that, it's pretty cool. I think we're actually going to do a program like that eventually, because it's just fascinating, and I think I need it personally. But that's a whole nother topic I'm not going to get into. So it also can mess with our eating habits. So when we sit in front of a television, we sit in front of a game, we sit with our phone, we are going to eat more, and we are going to eat more often, and it's going to become, you know, connected to the device we're eating, and you overeat, and that's bad eating habits right there. So that's your physical stuff, a little bit mental, but let's talk like more detail with the mental stuff. There's two things specifically that I really want to address. And the first one is social interactions. So for preteens and teenagers, that is one area in their life that they really need help with developing, is their social interacting. And if homeschool doesn't get enough heat about social interactions, I mean, constantly, like, what about socialization? What about that? You hear it all the time. Like, and I think at this point, people are kind of like, oh, homeschoolers get socialized all the time. We get it. People are getting it. However, you stick your child in front of a computer for the majority of the day, they're not really getting social interactions. They're getting virtual interactions, which is totally different, because in virtual land, like I said, you're your own persona, and you can like pull away from that very quickly. If you can walk away from it if you get yourself in trouble. Social interactions are actually dealing, it's like a full experience, right? In 3-dimensional, 4D, whatever you want to call it, okay? Virtual interactions is not, there's a difference, right? With these devices, their social interaction is damaged, because they are going to constantly be withdrawing to this little happy place and not deal with learning how to deal with people. Especially through the homeschool world, is they are going to withdraw from their family, from their responsibilities, if they're in school, from their schoolwork, because they're so into their little imaginary virtual interaction world. It's a safe place for them, right? Once again, if you can see the similarities between that and other addictions, okay? We want our kids to develop social interactions. We want them to learn how to deal with difficult people at a young age, how to deal with peers at a young age, we don't want them walking around on their device just completely in a bubble, ignoring everyone around them. And we've all seen it. We've all been to schools, to churches, to malls. Like, these kids are like sitting at the table and on their phone, doing stuff on their phone right in front of each other, and not actually having a communication or a conversation. They're not communicating. So yeah, they need that social interaction, not virtual interaction. And like I said, it's going to damage their relationships, true relationships with people. It's isolating our kids, and it's also bringing on anxiety and depression and loneliness, because they don't know how to deal with things and people. I do think one of the biggest things that we do see is this withdrawal and depression. Now, I wouldn't lie if I told you that I don't know what this is like, because I do. I mean, hello, I'm on social media all the time to say that I've never struggled with creating my own virtual world. I have. I've been there where I have completely been so absorbed with my virtual world that things around me, I completely zone out. And yes, my kids have seen that, and yes, they have mimicked me, and I have really, over the last couple of years, tried to be more present in their lives. And that's why I do a lot of my social media stuff. I mean, my kids, everybody's in bed. Like, everybody's in bed. And you don't see a lot of my day in the lives as much, because I do it after they go to bed. I'm also not on my phone. If you call me, guys, I don't pick up. If you text, I may or may not respond, because I try to try to be present. And that's the same thing for our kids, is we want them to be present and not constantly withdrawing into their own little like virtual world. So all these things taken into consideration, we are learning that society has to catch up with these things, period. And as a result, I'm going to share with some things that are going on in Florida. So if you are in Florida, just to kind of keep your eyes and ears open. But recently there has been some House bills that have been proposed. One of them was vetoed, but the second one that's being worked on right now is HB3. It's to protect, it's online protection of minors, basically. And there's going to be, you know, things put in place that will terminate accounts that belong to minors, social media accounts. It's also going to make it so that you have to be a certain age to have a social media account, and in order to have that social media account, if you're below a certain age, with parents' permission, you have to show some kind of identification. So there's all these things put into place because society's trying to catch up with all this craziness from social media. And yeah, this is what's going on. A lot of parents are like, this is great. This is amazing, because there's so many good things that come from this bill. Of course, we want it to be presented right, and we want, you know, all the things done properly, put into place. I don't know much detail beyond this, except that to keep an eye on it. So these are just kind of some of the reasons why we decided to do Screen Fast, and there's a lot. I'm hoping that we can now come together more as a family instead of, you know, I miss those days. And it's kind of actually really nice. I miss those days where we could do car rides and just talk to each other. And they have started to become the car ride with my kids on their phones, and we don't talk anymore. But because we've taken that away, we're back to sitting in the car and talking to each other again. We're doing more things as a family. We're spending more time together. Board games, fort building, walks, biking, rollerblading. We went out to eat the other day. Spent time together. We're learning how to interact with each other and respect siblings and not be so mad at them all the time. And because we have to deal with things. They cannot withdraw anymore to virtual world. They have to deal with social interactions with each other, siblings, and how to respond appropriately, and also with other people that are around them. I mean, it's a challenge for all of us, not just kids, and they're trying to learn all of this. And so when you get them in front of their devices, it hinders them from this. But if you're inspired, let me know. So I'm not the only one that's doing this, right? I think it is definitely starting to become an eye-opening problem in today's society, and I think government and everybody is realizing the damage that it has done and is doing to our up-and-coming generation. So let me know all your thoughts in the comments. You guys are really good at doing that, so have fun. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and play some videos. I have one on why is my middle schooler driving me crazy. Really fun one. I love talking about this. I was a middle school teacher, and so since middle school and adolescence is kind of a huge thing, it's a really good video. So they'll talk about all the brain development and stuff like that. So thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I will see you in my next video.